explained we were supposed to be there earlier because he was supposed to take me through this seminar event or something that she had. I'd never been to a UFO event, and someone, either the ETs or the CIA or the Navy or the Air Force, I don't know, because I was so involved with everybody, like Janet said, Area 51 people, that I was living it. So there was no way I could look in on my own life and observe, okay? So I had to be the observer and the experiencer. You know, I was participating in my own life. So I didn't know who she was. Now later on, now in my 60s, I'm trying to put this together from having lived it. In other words, I've already been on the trip and the journey. So I was hoping Janet and Karen could help me, like, I guess I hadn't read Paula's book. I guess I should, connecting the dots. But Janet and I have been seeing that together since 2012. We were going to connect the dots. It's going to be a long time coming, but on the trip over in the blue Cadillac, which is going to be interesting because later on there was a blue Cadillac in Oklahoma where these men in black, I meet a tall extraterrestrial, now very tall, that I was told to never talk about. So I don't know if now I'm going to hell or if they're going to kill me or if they even care anymore. But at that time, I was never supposed to mention that person. But having to meet Dolores Cannon, and she wanted me to meet her daughter. She was really big on me meeting her daughter. But her daughter, she called her daughter twice. Her daughter had gone to the store. She didn't know we were coming by. And she called her twice, but we stayed till dark. And then my husband drove me around there. It was a really Victorian-looking place in the mountains. When I was a little girl, I used to visit Magazine Mountain in the Ozarks. But I've never gone back and talked to Dolores, but she's on the other side now. But I do know that somehow either the ETs or the intelligence agency or whoever or both of them working together, I've never figured that out yet. So this is part of my quest before I die, is to get this story down because it's going to help a lot of people, my children and my grandchildren, and anybody else that comes to this planet, because this planet's going to be here. It's been here for billions, so 38-point-something billion for the whole universe. Now, my quest right now is I'm working on the Uni, Multi-Meta, Xeno, and Omniverse. That's the first 5 levels, adding Alpha and Omega to 7. And Janet calls them like the Russian dolls. But I'm also working with people that are they're scientists, they're quantum physicists. And we're working on how all the different parts of the human levels of soul and memory work together, because now they believe it. I've lived long enough and I wrote about it long enough, but they kept taking it down off of Wikipedia. I was putting it as fact and they were taking it down, but they'd leave it up for a while because people in the science fiction business were using my information on the various levels of existence, quantum physics, especially back in the day when a book was written and the Chinese picked me up and put it in their Chinese book on the dot theory, which I had, and they actually copied it in Chinese. So my name, Teresa J. Thurman Morris, is in the science book in China, and they used it. So there's multi-layers here. So it's going to be fun to see how we're all part of this ascension age. And the Roswell was because it kept me grounded. I went to see Glenn Dennis, and I think I talked about that before, but as far as staying on one timeline, this is going to be a little complicated, so I may have to jump around and then just go put. Because I want to mention, yes, Area 51. I did go there quite a lot, and then some people had a group there. I flew in one time, and some Jesuits saved me. They were at a conference, but I have been approached twice about getting on the plane to the Janet Airlines or the bus, and I had no recollection of getting on the. I have to this day. Now, I have with a Humvee at night with my husband and a general or colonel or whoever was in charge of one of the Area 51 levels. So I have that memory. But I'm sort of like Dr. Rick Miller. Rick Miller is a great psychic man who helped feed the Navy and the men that worked in special projects. And so I had skills. And because I was intuitive, I believe that I got to work not only I wanted Karen involved because of the vibration. We were studying back in early 80s before I got my call to the ministry for God or ETs or both, whatever it is, that we were working on the sound, vibration, colors, and all the stuff in the psychic awakening classes. that I wound up writing and forming with other people that were already there in the 60s, 70s. And I worked on the 1111, and there's certain groups of people, intuitively speaking, including Jack Campbell, A Chicken Soup for the Soul. And then there was John Gray with Men in Black.
Hey, we're out of time.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to my timer. So it
all right, well, you can call time.
Pass it to Karen. We'll come back. Okay?
Karen? Okay, sure.
Oh, you ready for me? Or?
Yes, uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what you were saying. Okay, I should pick up where I left off. So back to the Area 51. I mean, I haven't had the experience that TJ, you have, but, we just got to the front. So I took these pictures, and they came out. I didn't know one of them was a video until Derek helped me find it last week. And he said, oh, my goodness. He said, I think he sent it to you, Janet, but he said that you were the only person he was going to send it to. He said, you have to be careful with this. And I said, oh, okay. He said, well, I think we posted enough of those pictures for right now. He said, you don't want to be visited by the Men in Black. And he said that. He's great. I mean, he's a strong guy. He was a great soldier. And I said, okay, I'll do whatever you say. And so that's it. And it was really the energy out there, as you saw in the pictures, that wasn't me juggling the camera. And if he sent you the ones that I think he did, nobody was juggling the camera. Nobody was moving. And so if you want to ask him about it, we can talk at another time. But the whole time this was happening, Robert was in the car feeling and understanding and having experiences that he had a lot of people around us, but he couldn't physically see them. And he kept saying, how much longer are you going to go back and forth out there? And I said, well, I've just been out there 2 to 3 times. He said, well, I think that we have a lot of people around. I said, I don't see anybody. And he said, well, you don't have to see them. You can feel them. And he said, let's just do one more time. You can go one more time. And he said, and I said, okay. I went out there again, took some more stuff, and it was just like, 12 feet from the car. And then I walked back, and he said, okay, it's time to go. And I said, okay. And we turned back around and slowly went back down the gravel road, and there was a white car with the black tinted windows. And he said, now that interests me after what I was feeling up there. And I said, what do you think? He said, I don't know. And so that was it when we left Area 51. And we drove all the way back to Las Vegas. And it was interesting. It was what it was. But we weren't alone, and that's what is seen in some of those pictures. So, quite interesting. Wow. So that's all I have to say about Area 51. I don't have the experience of any military or anything like that. I was just seeking and trying to find out and feel. I could feel a presence, but I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any of the movement that were on the pictures until I saw the pictures. But to me, nothing was moving. So that was interesting. So other than that, that's all I have to say about that. 25. We just, So
okay, do you have anything else you want to say? You have 1 minute and 20 seconds. Do you want to pass the talking stick? Or
I will tell you that I think that it had some really good energy. It was a fabulous experience, one that will stay with you forever.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to start the timer again. My turn. So I was not at Area 51, but I was on Johnson Atoll. And Johnson Atoll, I ended up following a boyfriend to the island. I was living in Oahu in Hawaii, and he had trouble maintaining a job because he kept getting fired because he was basically an alcoholic. But he came from a military family, and he told me stories about how when he was a kid, mother remarried, and she married a man that would take him to the silos with the missiles, the nuclear warheads, and he said he would look down and at these huge missiles that were underground. And so anyway, he was, I guess, bragging and sharing that with me, but he had some connections. So he had been on Johnson Atoll, which you have to have some clearance to get on it, and he was no longer in the military. He was civilian working for the military, and he said he wanted to go back someday. So I was with him for 4 years altogether, and at one point he said, you know, I can't keep a job here, so I'm going to go back to Johnson Atoll, and I'm not abandoning you. I'm not leaving you. Cause we were living together, but it sure felt like I was abandoned. But he said, don't worry, I'm going to get you a job there. So he left, and if you look at Johnson Atoll, you can Google it. It looks like a aircraft carrier, but it's an island. And the military shaped it into basically a landing field in the middle. It was about 3.5 miles by 1 mile wide or something like that. And on the far end, the operating story was this is where they brought all the chemical weapons voluntarily. They were surrendered to the United States to take them to this island where they were broken down into elements and neutralized. So that was the cover story. It's always a cover story. And it had been in operation since World War II. And if you look at it from an aerial picture, there's a part where it's really deep, dark blue waters, very dark blue. Well, when I got there, and I've been researching this since 1995, when I landed December of 95, he did get me a job. It was an on-the-phone interview. They hired me. Next thing I knew, I'm selling everything I own, putting the rest in storage, and I'm on a military transport, the ones where you have to wear the the plugs, and you sit in the back, and it just vibrates, and it's horrible, and like a 2-hour ride, and I'm there with a bunch of other people, and when you land on the island, you had to go through a test to prove that you could smell. Well, little did they know I could not smell whatsoever, and I thought, I'm going to get sent back. And it was like they let me in, and piecing it together, they let me in because I'm an ET contactee, and I've been a contactee all my life. And I didn't know what was in store for me, but I pieced this together. So I'm working a regular job. I'm on a military base. There's very few women there. There's like 25% women. I'm involved with my boyfriend, but lo and behold, he gets fired. So I end up getting involved with another gentleman. And then he dumped me, and then I ended up with a third boyfriend because you just could not be there alone, because if you were alone, the pressure of the men, they all wanted you. You had to have, it was like an unwritten law. You had to have a man by your side, or else you were dog meat, and they were all trying to consume you. So I didn't want that, so I always had a boyfriend. So I'm there about a year, and a couple times I had people trying to romance me, and they're taking around and said, see that thing up on the telephone pole, and the transportation system was golf carts or bikes, so we're on a golf cart, and this guy's trying to basically get my pants and impress me, and he says, well, we can see and hear everything you're saying all over the island. So he was revealing to me technology that was way in advance of what normal human beings are aware of. And so then it made me think, like, oh, my God, what did I say? The people that are focused on phones are tracking us, and basically they can pick up words and signals. They can be outside in your yard or across the street. And they don't, I'm not sure how it works, but they don't need much to pick up everything you're saying. And I'm running out of time. I'm going to pass it on to TJ, your turn. TJ, you're talking about Area 51 and Roswell.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about my clearance. I got my clearance right out of boot camp in Orlando, Florida. For some reason, I didn't know what a Q clearance was, so I was trying to look that up. I thought that sounded strange.